morning and greetings to colleagues who are online as well as those who are in the different centers of the MSSRF. I would like to first of all thank our panelists for agreeing to join this session, which is part of the 3-day consultation that is going on food and nutrition security. Of course, we are now speaking in the context of the pandemic, which has disrupted lives and livelihoods across the world for the past 18 months. And therefore, this particular consultation is very, very relevant because food and nutrition insecurity is one of the key areas that has been affected by the COVID pandemic. As everybody is aware, the status of food insecurity report jointly produced by FAO, WHO, and other partners was released recently, which paints a very disturbing picture of the status of food and nutrition security across the world. It clearly shows that compared to 2019, hunger had worsened in 2020. There were millions of more people who were going to bed hungry, and it was also projections for the increase in the number of children who are going to be stunted and wasted in 2021 and beyond. The report also highlighted 6 key messages that we need to consider as we are actually looking ahead. And all of these relate to food systems and the linkage between agriculture, nutrition, and health, and of course, climate change. Yesterday, we saw the report, the UN report, which really again paints a very grim picture of the status of climate change today, which is another huge factor that's going to affect food systems in the future. So the 6 key messages very briefly from the report are that food systems can provide affordable, healthy diets and become a powerful driving force towards ending hunger when they are transformed with greater resilience to the major drivers. The second main area was about conflict-affected areas, because we know globally that there are a large number of people living in conflict-affected areas, and so food systems there get disrupted, and one has to focus on maintaining these food systems and at the same time providing humanitarian assistance to people. For example, in Mozambique, more than 1 million people are at risk of starvation today because of climate change-associated drought. The third is innovative mechanisms to reduce climate-related risks, widespread adoption of climate-smart and environmentally sound production techniques, and the conservation and rehabilitation of natural environments. The fourth is that the economic fallout from the COVID pandemic has demonstrated that food supply chains, it's very important to keep those in operation when there are big disruptions like the pandemic, but there are also other disruptions, and adequate support to the livelihoods and food security of the most vulnerable sections of society. The fifth, I think, major learning from the pandemic has been inequalities have been exacerbated. And even when you look at food systems, the large, big grocery stores and massive e-commerce companies have benefited a lot. The billionaires have become richer. There are more billionaires today than there were a year ago, and yet at the same time, we know hundreds of millions of people are pushed into poverty. So we need to use technology, data, and innovation to help those who are actually at the bottom, so that they can also make use of those innovations to improve their lives. And then we need comprehensive policies that are aimed at both the food and the natural environment. So it's really critical to link these things and not have policies which are in silos, because you need behavioral changes along the entire food supply chain as well as among consumers. So you have to shift dietary patterns for the benefit of both human health and the environment. You need good governance mechanisms and institutions, and the investments and legislations have to be maximized to combine their effects on food systems transformation. So it's all about systems approaches that contribute to win-win solutions. Now, again, today we are in India, in Chennai, But we are, of course, the consultation is broader. It's talking not only about India, but also about South Asia as well as other parts of the world which face similar challenges. We in India, of course, we recently have the NFHS 5 data that's come out, which again, this is pre-pandemic, so this was done in 2019-20. The first phase of the data already showed that in a number of states, malnutrition had got worse. So compared to NFHS 4, where there had been improvement, NFHS 5 showed a deterioration in child malnutrition and anemia and many other indicators. We are still waiting for the full results of the NFHS 5, but even what we've seen from 17 states and 5 union territories shows that children born between 2014 and 19 are not as well nourished as the ones born in the 5 years before. So again, we need to really look at the reasons and the drivers for child undernutrition and maternal anemia. At the same time, the rates of obesity are increasing dramatically in many states in India. So again, it's the dual undernutrition, the burden of obesity on the one hand, with continued undernutrition, wasting, and stunting on the other hand, which India needs to tackle, and other countries in South Asia, Latin America, as well as Africa also are facing. So today's panelists, we'll request them to address issues which will help us to think about the policy changes that are needed to improve the nutritional status. And as I mentioned, the policy changes has to be a systems approach. It will not work if we make a policy change in one sector that is discordant with the policies which are in another sector.